In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a sculpture out of the two pinch pots that you have already created. In my sculpture, I have a lot of hair pieces sticking out, and I would not recommend having pieces stick out like that if you are planning on firing your pot. That is because it's really fragile and they will break really easily. If you are not planning on firing it, don't plan on making a rattle, otherwise you'll have to take the paper towel out of it. But you want to wrap the little beads up in a paper towel before you score and slip the two pieces together. The paper towel is going to prevent the little beads from getting stuck to the inside of your pinch pots, and it'll burn inside of the kiln, so the paper towel will turn to ash and dust later on. But if you are not planning on firing your project, you can skip this part, or the part of the beads. You do, however, need to score and slip your two pinch pots together and then blend the seam. So you can see that I am smushing that line together so that it is well blended. I do not want to see any seams afterwards, because then it could potentially fall apart and break. And also you want to make sure that you're paying attention to detail into this sculpture. Smooth out any cracks, bumps, and lumps, and then you will be ready to start forming and pushing and manipulating the clay to create the form that you're going to make. I am making a face, so I'm going to start by pressing in to make the eye sockets like a little more concave, and I'm starting to form the shape of the head. So I want to pay attention to the placement of the eyes and nose and mouth, and you will start to see me add those details. Now I'm going to start taking little pieces of clay that I'm going to score and slip to add facial features like the nose and the mouth. I am just taking little pieces of clay here and there to keep adding as I'm creating the form of the face and the facial features. Sometimes it looked a little funny when like something was a little more concave than I would have wanted. So I would take a little piece of clay and score and slip it on, and then model it once it's on to the form. You can see I'm using the other end of the fork to use as a modeling tool, and sometimes using the fork itself to help model the nose. But overall, I'm not using any special modeling tools to get the look. I'm just using what I can find. So try looking around for little tools that you can use. Sometimes I use the other end of a paintbrush, or you could even use your pencil, something that will help you model the clay as you're working. So with this sculpture, you want to make sure that you're adding a lot of detail on it. You're scoring and slipping and adding clay where it needs to be added, and carving clay where it needs to be carved away. This is why I recommended that you do not make your pinch pots too thin. If your pinch pots are less than 1/4 inch thick, they might be too thin and break if you applied a lot of pressure in order to model it. So my form is hollow inside, and if it was too thin, it would break right through. So you want to make sure that it has a decent amount of clay there so that you can really push and manipulate it. Now I'm going to add the mouth to the sculpture, and if you can see here, I am not adding a perfectly formed mouth. I'm actually going to just add some clay and then model the mouth with my fingers and any tools that I can find to give it the shape that I want it. I actually ended up deciding that the amount of clay that I added was a good amount for like the bottom lip, and then I'm going to add more clay for the top lip eventually. So it's a better practice to not make everything perfect before you attach it. You want to put just some clay onto the form and then perfect it once it's on it. Now I have to start thinking about how I want it to stand on the table. So I'm going to make a neck for my little sculpture so that it stands upright. So I just took a little bit of clay and flattened it out. This is actually an old pinch pot that I just ripped up, and I'm going to use the scrap pieces for it. But you could just take out a little bit of clay and flatten it out a little bit and make a cylinder for the neck, or whatever you decide to make. So I am going to score and slip this piece onto it, and then I'm going to redefine the neck and into the head later on. So I'll perfect the form once it's attached. So I'm just blending the attachment that I just made in so it's really well connected, and then I can redefine the shape of the head and perfect the sculpture. The last thing that I want you to make sure that you do, especially if you're going to fire it, is you need to poke some air holes. So I'm taking my little pointy tool and poking holes into it, and that is going to allow air to escape when it's firing. If you don't poke air holes and you put it into the kiln, there is a potential that it will explode in the kiln. So you always want there to be air to escape in a hollow form. Otherwise, it could explode. So you don't want your pot to break. The rest of this video is just perfecting the form, redefining the lips and the facial features, and then I'm going to carve the eyes and add the hair. So enjoy the rest of the video.